Big Cat Weekend may be over, but is it really? Another commitment is resulting of the 2024 Big Auburn Recruiting Weekend. Let's get into it and talk about the latest addition to this class for Auburn football. Well, War Eagle, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, the Auburn Experience, where we talk about anything and everything Auburn, whether it's about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family. If it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you so much for joining us and being part of this little family within the Auburn family. On today's live stream, we've got a special one for you. A reaction of sorts and discussion of the things that you need to know and what it means for Auburn football in regard to some news this evening of Auburn football getting yet another commitment to its 2025 class and yet another commitment in general on this weekend, the extension of the weekend that was Big Cat Weekend. Who are we talking about today? That is Anquon Fegans. I believe I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, please forgive me, Fegans. We are excited to discuss him today and what he means to the class for Auburn, for obviously his own career, and of course the facts and stuff that you need to know about him. Before we get into all of that today, we want to make sure that you're aware that, yes, we are aware that we haven't done yet one about the other exciting news today. Derek Smith, who flipped from Alabama to Auburn today earlier and to kind of get things kicked off for the day. We do plan to do a stream for him dedicated to just him. Probably tomorrow sometime in regards to if you're watching this live, but we wanted to go ahead and jump on here and talk about Anquon Fegans tonight. So just a little bit of a programming note. Let's get into it. Let's start off by talking about with you guys as you're coming into the chat. If you're watching live and replay, share any thoughts that you have about the things that you need to know about Mr. Anquon Fegans. We have a lot in this guy to talk about before we even get into what it means for the Auburn Tigers. In terms of who he is, where he's from, let's start there. This is Anquon Fegans. He plays for Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama. For those of you that aren't aware of that vicinity, where it's located, it's essentially a outer skirts of Birmingham, Alabama. Some people will disagree with me and say, no, it's not really. It's its own thing. Sure. That's kind of like me saying I don't live right outside, of Atlanta. Just for a little location check on me if you want to know where exactly closely I am. Alabaster, I'm playing for Thompson High School, which was one of the best football high school programs in Alabama currently. So good pedigree coming from there alone to come be part of this program. He is a defensive back, more specifically, and most considering him a safety. If you look at his measurables, you're going to find that lines up pretty well with what you see in terms of safeties. He falls somewhere within the 6 foot to 180, 190 pound range, depending on who you use for your recruiting services, who you choose to follow. You're going to find some differing things there, but that's usually where this is where this guy usually falls in terms of measurable. So probably a safety. But one of the things that I want to stress with people is that a lot of these times we put these guys and recruiting services put them into what they best fit right now. But a lot of times this changes. And as I was reading up on this guy, one of the things that came across to me was the versatility that he seems to have in the high school ranks, but what he may eventually mean for Auburn here. So it's good to know that a guy has that. Obviously, when you play in high school, you play you play both ways, offense, defense, special teams as well. But you see that being noted for him particularly, and at least that I've noticed, but being a special teams contributor. So we may see him factor into that. You probably will see him factor into safety and be part of a dynamic duo that's him and Eric Winters, which a lot of people who are really excited about too. And having the two of them in this class together, coming together, really feels like it locks down that safety position, at least for this class, and has you feeling really secure about that if they hold true to their commitments. But this is a guy that could potentially even slide over to nickelback, given how he grows, how he develops, and what his best opportunities to play are at Auburn. Maybe you see him slide over to that versatile nickelback position and come up and slap somebody in the face from the nickelback position. So that's obviously something as well there. There's a lot of connective tissue with Anquon and Auburn and coaches that are currently here at Auburn. His positional coach, who did the probably the bulk of the work recruiting him. Charles Kelly, our safeties coach and co-defensive coordinator, has a relationship with one of his older brothers, I believe. It's his older brother who used to play at Alabama. Charles used to be there. Unfortunately, we all have those parts of our past. So that obviously factors in here too. Most of you may have forgotten by now that his brother and Anquon Fegans has already committed and is on the roster for Auburn currently, and that happened a little bit earlier, spring, summer, and a lot of people looked at that fact as the likely indication this is where this was heading. And while you were probably not going to be incorrect if you assume that, then it's something you want to be very careful of. It doesn't always mean the case, but it certainly can't hurt. And I think obviously it's probably something that helped in this case. He will, if everything goes according to plan, get to play 1 year with his brother, who's listed as a junior here at Auburn. He comes in this class as a freshman. He's here still as a senior. That'll be a cool, special family moment for the Fegans family, and how all of that will shake out. We'll watch and see if it does for them. Highly coveted guy for Auburn to get. Clemson, Georgia, and most notably probably LSU were the guys that Auburn had to fight off for this particular guy. You look at him across the board, seems to be a consensus 4-star if you're interested in those type of things. It's a pretty big get for Auburn, and she gets you really, really excited for what's coming individually, what also he means for the team coming in as part of this class. So let's jump into that now. Let's talk about what it means. And this is what we're basing off what we know currently at the time of his commitment. So these numbers, if you're watching off in the future, are these speculations or discussion points, may change based off of that. Let's talk about it in relation to the class. You obviously now have 21 total commits at the time of his commitment in the 2025 class, starting to fill up quite nicely with a lot of different players. It makes it the 10th overall Alabama, more on that in a second, commit for Auburn, the state of Alabama. And as we already addressed, Eric Winters being the other notable safety for the Tigers in this class. Doesn't appear right now that anybody else would be considered a safety at this time. The others would be cornerbacks, but obviously things can change, and we'll see how that shakes out for them. If you look at the class as a whole right now, again, I stress to you guys, while it's great to be excited about rankings and stuff, but they can change rapidly. Right now, with his commitment and another one that we have to discuss on another stream, will be bringing the Auburn Tigers up into the fifth place overall as a class potential right now, as of the time of his commitment. So that's a great sign. And this is after a time where Auburn had a really big stretch of recruiting. It went quiet. Rivals were having a great time. You'd love to see them come on over to our chats and stuff like that, and social media content, and trying to be toxic. And then, boy, they're eating their words now. So always keep that in mind. Even if you're an Auburn fan, don't go over there running your mouth. Don't come over here running your mouth. It ebbs and flows, all that kind of stuff. But right now, that's where that kind of stands with the class numbers, and how it shakes out the safety position. What does this mean for the team? What does this mean for him factoring into potential playing time at Auburn? Again, he is a defensive back, considered to be a safety, but there's even some discussion points from, I believe, some of his coaches about how versatile he is and how he may factor as a nickel back. So let's look at a couple of those different ways of what Auburn has to work with right now. If you look at the depth chart as it is supposed to be right now, you have got Jaron Thompson as a senior at one safety, and Sylvester Smith as a redshirt freshman as another safety, probably a free safety there. You also have Caleb Wooden as a junior, Laquan Robinson as a junior that are going to be here, Terrence Love, Griffin Speaks, who is a senior who will be leaving. He's played a little bit too. CJ Johnson, who probably factors into that as well. So right now, you're going to be losing most likely Jaron Thompson, Griffin Speaks. So that's two people that you are losing. That potentially you'll have to compete against, but you're still going to have the likes of Sylvester Smith, who's going to be playing. Laquan Robinson as a junior JUCO guy that came in, probably is going to have a leg up on having some playing time. So while I am super excited about having him, Eric Winters, as part of this class right now, I wouldn't expect them to be able to come in and start right away. Playing time, maybe. definitely within that 4-game stretch that they can have without using their eligibility, especially as versatile, as talented, as athletic as these guys, as he seems to be. You're probably going to see him utilized a ton on special teams. So expect to see him playing some, but maybe not starting or anything like that right away. In terms of like recruiting pipelines, things like that, obviously we talked about it from the state of Alabama. Huge to get this number of players to be dominating the way the Auburn Tigers seem to be at this time in the in-state recruiting, which is a huge thing. You'll hear people dismiss that from a certain side. That's just them trying to hide their own pain in the suffering of that. So it is a huge factor and a great thing for Hugh Freeze to come in here and understand the value of taking care of home first with doing such a great job of in-state recruiting. And for the Birmingham area too, always a wealth of talent. Make sure you go get who you can get out of there, and Thompson High School too. And finally, what does this mean for the class? Are we done yet? 21 total commits, 2 safeties, and you also have plenty of other maybe talent out there that could be available. Are we done yet? I think is the big question. With the class, most likely not. There's another one out there, not even related to this one, that we're potentially waiting on. Does it mean that we're done at this position? Well, as we just broke down with the depth chart, there's 2 safeties that are leaving. If you go by, years of eligibility left, that means 2 are coming in. Those spots are filled. Does it mean somebody else can potentially come in? Sure, it does. I'm not saying I know one way or the other about that, but right now it seems like the available spots have been filled, and boy, have they been filled with a pretty good degree of talent, it seems like. So while I would never say we are done yet, it does seem like all needs have been met. So with that being said, we have covered a ton here today. There was a lot to talk about with him. If you have any other comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals about this particular, for those of you who are watching live, commit and how it relates to everything Auburn right now, be sure to drop that in as you'd like to here. A couple of reminders for you as we wind down and you guys think about final comments, questions, topics related to this. If you haven't, please do go check out the rest of our content related to Big Cat Weekend. Even though this isn't on the weekend, Big Cat Weekend was huge. There was Hezekiah Harris. We had, I'm going to have to try to remember all of these off the top of my head at this point. Shadarius Tootle, that is an awesome name. You had Jamichael Garrett. We had, oh my goodness, Blake Woodby. That was another one. The flip again of Antonio Coleman. We did not do a live stream about him just because of the flipping back and forth of his nature. The new punter coming out of Alabaster as well in Thompson High School. Today, Derek Smith, who we have not done a stream about yet. We will do that most likely tomorrow if my schedule allows. But also, if you want just a comprehensive overview of the weekend part of Big Cat Week, and not including this, because obviously it happened after the fact, you can hear Austin and myself talk about this in detail in the main podcast, in our main live stream for this podcast last night. But that segment is out for you if you'd like to consume that separately. So all the different ways. And Austin is reminding you all in fine fashion here, my co-host, are we done yet? It does not seem like it. So many celebrations, so many people happy about this, and you should be. What a great time to be an Auburn Tiger, and what a great Big Cat Weekend. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our little family within the Auburn family, and for hanging out with us this evening and checking this content out. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.